All right, folks, welcome back to the Crisis Report. It is October 7th, 2025. At least it was yesterday. This is a report for that date. It's now October 8th, came and went, but we are 2 years after, which is why this one is called 2 years after if you ask the Israelis, it was the worst day since, 1945 when the troops were moving into to Germany. And if you ask, Palestinians, people in Gaza, everything is justified. So I did on my Substack earlier, and I put it onto all my different places. A little bit of a juxtaposition. I put the pro-Israel side, I put the anti-Israel side, and how they're taking this day. So you kind of see what's going on and how it all, plays out and what they're saying, And then the comment of it, I said basically, hey, as long as a blue-haired liberal gets to, put pictures onto their Twitter feed, even though they're never going to be in the Middle East or even step foot there. So, yeah. Anyway, all right, folks. Let's get started with all this. We're brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals. It is a precious metals company. Takes your IRA, 401k, puts it into gold and silver. Gold just topped $4,000, and I'll just leave it at that. If you're looking to do this, this company is rated by the Better Business Bureau. They are touted by CNBC. It is a legit company that does what they say they will do. So if you're considering it, consider going in, checking that link, and doing an informational with them and seeing what they have to say. All right, let's go. Let's get started on your crisis report for October 7th, 2025. Here we go. Ukrainian President Zelensky is reportedly wiring $50 million a month to a Saudi Arabian bank, according to Representative Anna Polina Luna. Chuck Schumer has denied claims that Democrats are pushing to provide health insurance to illegal immigrants, calling the reports false. Williams and Connolly, one of the nation's top law firms, has informed clients that Chinese hackers breached parts of its computer network in what appears to be a wider campaign targeting American law firms. Sinaloa cartel is reportedly threatening to attack American tourists in destinations like Cabo following a series of lab raids and major drug seizures. Deloitte, one of the largest accounting and auditing firms in the world, is to refund the Australian Albanese government after a report done with the assistance of AI, it was found to contain several errors. The mayor of Heidelberg in Germany was stabbed by several men, air quotes, broad daylight in front of her house. Update. The police responded and arrested the 15-year-old adopted son of the mayor. In the patrol car, the boy was handcuffed and put into a forensic suit. The boy reportedly told police that his mother was attacked by several men on the street. He is adopted and looking like he is not German, but more sub-Saharan African. See where that goes. Obviously, they are not being upfront, or they're not disclosing anything right now for the police. Strange one. AFD's Chief Alice Vidal, the planned EU-wide chat control is absolutely totalitarian project. Yep. Means the de facto abolition of digital privacy. Vidal said that the planned EU regulation overrides end-to-end encryption of digital messages and makes it possible to automatically search all private messages, images, and videos on users' and devices. In other words, every citizen is placed under the general digital suspicion and declared a potential criminal. Data protection, freedom of speech and opinion, privacy would thus finally become historical relics. Trump says that Mark Carney of Canada is a world-class leader. When asked about the trade deal not being done, Trump joked, because I want to be a great man too. Trump posed for a photograph in the Oval Office with the family of an American IDF soldier who reportedly died on October 7th in Hamas tunnels. Pentagon will select as soon as this week the defense company to design and build the Navy's next stealth fighter. U.S. official and two people familiar with the decision said it will be a multi-billion-dollar effort for a jet seen as central to U.S. efforts to counter China. U.S. Supreme Court here's a challenge to conversion therapy ban for minors. Ukrainian officials were left bewildered and disappointed by President Joe Biden's December 2015 trip to Kiev, during which he gave a speech decrying corruption as a cancer, with the Ukrainians accusing the U.S. of a double standard. Given Biden's family ties to corrupt energy firm Burisma, a trove of newly declassified Obama-era intelligence has revealed. Major accident was reported on the Jaipur-Ajmer highway in India after a truck carrying multiple LPG cylinders overturned. A series of loud explosions were heard following the crash, impacting several other vehicles. Traffic movement on the highway has been halted. Most powerful geomagnetic storm in the last 3 months hit Earth, leading to mass-scale aurora borealis over Russia, Canada, Alaska, Greenland, and Scandinavia. Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations has begun to deploy generators at sites across western Russia, city of Belgorod. Blackout spread due to continued UAV and missile strikes against energy infrastructure by Ukraine. World Organization for Animal Health, or WOA, announced the outbreak of a highly contagious form of H5N1 bird flu. Call your flocks now. October 7th is also the anniversary of Russian President Vladimir Putin. His leader is celebrating 73 years on the earth. Happy birthday to Vlad. Happy birthday to Vlad. Happy birthday, dear Vladimir. Happy birthday to Vlad. Gold surpassed today for the first time in history $4,000 an ounce, reaching a new all-time high of $4,014.60. Yeah. Trump administration announced it will transfer tariff revenue to the Women and Children Food Program to ensure it doesn't run dry during the Schumer shutdown. Over 6 million rely on this program for healthy food assistance, and they almost suffered because of the Schumer shutdown. Endless political instability in France has threatened the entire Eurozone. This is according to Politico. Good reasons for this. The publication notes that France is the second largest economy in the European Union, leading player in the Group of Seven, the only nuclear power in the EU, and a permanent member of the UN Security Council after L'ONU resigned. French stocks and government bonds fell, and the euro weakened against the dollar. The basic French CAC 40 index dropped by 1.4%. The Eurozone economy is already causing a lot of concern, said a government official from one of the Eurozone countries. We really don't need this. Some EU diplomats are already privately writing a political obituary for Macron, having come to power in 2017 and breaking the molds of French politics. According to them, he now looks like a lame duck whose influence in Brussels is rapidly fading. Preliminary reports that French President Emmanuel Macron has decided on calling a snap election on November 16th or November 23rd. Earlier today, Emmanuel Macron met with Yael Braun-Pivet, President of the National Assembly, and Gerard Larcher, President of the Senate. This is a requirement if the French president wants to dissolve the French parliament. Pro-Palestinian protesters are attempting to storm BlackRock headquarters in New York. Oh man, no comment. I'm not going to aid and abet them. I'm not going to say go for it. I'm not going to say go attaboy. Due to Hamas's position, which stands in direct contradiction of the 20 points of Trump's plan, and by order of the U.S. president, the Prime Minister of Qatar and the head of the Turkish intelligence will join the negotiation talks tomorrow. Israeli Prime Minister Ron Dermer, along with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, will also participate. Prime Minister Netanyahu, in a statement marking 2 years since October 7th, said, "I bow my head in memory of the murdered and the hostages, promises to continue the fight until everyone is returned. Elimination of Hamas rule and guarantee that Gaza will no longer pose a threat. We are in decisive days. Together we will win." Republican Congressman and chair of the National Security and Department of State, Mario Diaz-Balart, warned that Maduro has 3 options left. He can leave now and retire wherever he wants before it's too late, or he has the Noriega option or the Soleimani option, in which they had to pick him up in pieces and without the need for any soldier to enter anywhere. Macron becomes a hindrance to France. The French president has only 2 options left. Either he dissolves the parliament or he resigns. At least that is the number of French politicians believe. Emmanuel Macron's allies say he should share power, and the majority of French people demand his departure from office. Mathematically speaking, the conditions of the problem are as follows. Macron's party does not have a majority in parliament, yet it refuses alliances with either the left or the far right. Why is it the left and only the far? I'm sure they're the far left too. Or maybe they're just in the right. Whatever. Country's president categorically refuses to make concessions even to those willing to become his allies. Meanwhile, more and more ordinary citizens are beginning to see Macron himself as an obstacle to the normal political life of the country. As shown by an Odoxa poll for Le Figaro, whose results were widely disseminated by other media, only 20% of respondents see the way out of the political deadlock in appointing a new prime minister, while 26% support dissolving the National Assembly. At the same time, majority, 53%, demand a completely different solution, namely the president's resignation. Overall, 70% of French people express positive attitude toward his possible resignation. Apparently, well, we'll see where it goes. We have our first break in the Matrix, friends. Yes, Oracle. A month ago, Oracle's stock soared after forecasting extraordinary growth, signed 4 multi-billion-dollar contracts with 3 different customers in Q1. And that's according to CEO Safra Katz. $455 billion in contract backlog, multi-billion-dollar deals, but according to the information, newly surfaced internal documents paint a different picture. Oracle's AI cloud margins are razor thin, 14 cents on every dollar for NVIDIA server rentals. That's less than most retail businesses, and in some cases, the company's actually losing money. Data shows margins fluctuating between 10 and 20%, averaging just 16%, and reportedly, Oracle lost nearly $100 million last quarter renting out Blackwell chips, very product driving its AI boom. J.B. Britzker of Illinois says America is currently witnessing the early days of the Yahtzee regime. Looked like just 1 week ago, Pritzker said it was dangerous for the Trump admin to call Democrats fascists, as now he equates the Trump administration to Yahtzees. In the early days of the regime, National Socialist, they started slowly but surely taking away people's rights, and what we're seeing now is the very same thing. If you're not a citizen, you don't have the same rights as I do. Just saying. If you're not a citizen, you don't get the same rights. Andrew Colvett confirms veracity of the screenshot of text messages exchanged by Charlie Kirk and unknown party members of Jewish donors withdrawing financial support for TPUSA due to Kirk's commitment to free speech and open debate, even with figures critical of Israel and American Jewish folks. That was a direct response to Mr. Tucker Carlson. French economist Jacques Rueff is warning in 1972 that a day will come when countries start dumping their dollar reserves and begin buying gold. What follows will be an unraveling of the entire post-war economic system, leading to the return of the 1930s in more ways than just one, folks. To wit, everybody knows that a total disruption of the system will eventually entail a rise in the price of gold, notwithstanding reassuring words to the countries whose convertibility reserves consist of dollars rather than metal will be deprived of the incremental value that would be resulted from the holding of an equal amount of gold. Who can doubt that the monetary officials of those countries will one day realize that their duty is to safeguard the interests of the citizens, sure, who entrusted them with office at least as much and even more than those of the United States? Well, on that day, they will seek to reduce their dollar balances, as one of the most deeply committed countries in the Far East is already doing, or at any event will refuse to increase such balances. For the reasons listed above, the indefinite retention of dollar balances will one day cease to be a respected principle. Convertibility of the dollar will no longer be assured, and the monetary system will then collapse. Only one hardly dares imagine the ensuing damage and turmoil. The least that it is to be feared is that most of the affected countries will be forced to protect their balances with payments, with all the isolationist economic practices that blossomed in the harmfully 1931 to 1935 timeframe. Inevitable result would be recession and unemployment. Additional dangers will result, compounded by the weakness of the political structures that are far less solid than at the time of the Great Depression. Ouch. Not looking good, folks. And just a friendly reminder that Oracle's debt-to-equity ratio is 520% in the negative. Amazon's near 50%. 30% for Google's even lower. At some point, you have to wonder, how long can Oracle afford to keep this up? You can't finance the future forever on borrowed money. And Hamas has refused to disarm and is demanding an end of the war and full Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. And it's when they're being concluded from the negotiations thus far, according to Israeli media. And new analysis reveals low-income older Americans die nearly a decade earlier than their wealthier counterparts. My Lord, I wonder what the difference is. Friends, that's your crisis report for October 7th, 2025. Hit the like button, do the subscribe thing, darken out the bell. Come on back for more. We're going to keep it coming. God bless you all, and we will see you on the next one. We're brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals. Check out the link in the description and keep prepping, and maybe consider becoming a member like Water Tiger or Stealth Mode. Blue Cord Devil, thank you. It's what the cool kids are doing. God bless you all, guys. See you on the next one.